Alright, so now we're gonna just export the textures that we created out of Painter. Um, it's very simple. You probably already know it, but I'm just gonna go over how I do it and a little bit of the details of it. So what I usually do is go into configuration, select whichever one you need, whichever one you want. Usually I just use PBR metal roof. And what I would do then is I would duplicate the PBR metal roof, rename it to the project that I'm doing at the moment, so tutorial, and now what I can do is just customize the outputs to whatever I want, and then if I come back to it, it's self-explanatory which one I've used, and you don't get any like spare maps that you're not going to use or anything. So I'm not using emissive. The one I am using is ambient occlusion, and ambient occlusion is grayscale map. And we're just going to copy one of these. This is just the naming convention of your maps. And we're just going to label it ambient occlusion. Right-o. And we're going to grab this input map, drag it down here, and slot it into the grey channel. There, as easy as that. So now we can go, well, I already have it here. You can just go into your configuration, select it. See, this is going to export all the maps that you need. And then I just label it at 4K or whatever resolution you want, and then just export. Okay, so now we're in Marmoset. Your scene might look like this, it might not. I'm not sure how the dependencies work with Marmoset. You may have to, again, go into your project files, and it should hopefully be self-explanatory, but you go into these environment textures, plug in the different textures of the environment into your normals, roughness, etc., etc. I think there should be yeah, in the room of the textures and materials folder. You should find them here, and just plug them in if they aren't already, and then you can plug these materials to this presentation room here. And again, it's self-explanatory: bricks to bricks, paid tiles to paid tiles, sandstone to sandstone. Alright, so I'll just go down, run through the scene. This is a scene that I used for the prop, and it's just kind of like a basic kind of like cloister, kind of old abbey room. I just wanted something kind of mysterious, a little bit like a museum exhibit, but obviously to do with King Arthur. It kind of works. It was simple to do. So what we got in the Marmoset scene file, we've got our environment here. We've got our helmet kind of placed on this pedestal here, and we have all the little things, all the different models in the helmet. We have the shot camera, which is just the main shot camera that I used for the project itself. Lighting, we got a studio HDRI and a sky just a normal sky. You can choose either one. Because it's indoors, it's not really going to matter. Most of the global illumination that we're going to be using, because we are going to be using global illumination here. The HDRI isn't really going to affect that much. It's mostly going to be your main light sources that are going to bleed to the bleed into the environment. And these lighting files here, they are just various lighting setups which I experimented with, and you can just have a play around with. But I'll mention them a bit later. So if you probably don't have this material at the moment, you probably just have a plain material on the model. So we'll just create our marmoset material now. Very simple, just plug in all the different maps, basically. We'll just rename that helmet. We'll plug in the maps that were exported out. You can export them wherever you want. I just exported them here. So we got the height, we'll plug that into the displacement. Normal map. Roughness. And make sure this is set to roughness, obviously. Base color. Make sure sRGB is checked. Metallic. Ambient occlusion. And the cavity map. I usually use the same. I know, again, it's not particularly physically accurate. I just think it looks pretty decent. I use the same map for occlusion and cavity. Now that we've done that, we'll apply that to the helmet. It's going to look terrible because we've set the scale of the displacement to a huge value. So we'll just lower that down to nothing now. Do we need to flip? Don't believe we do. Oh, we might do actually. No. Occasionally you may need to flip the normal map, but I think we set the normal map in Substance Beta to OpenGL. We don't need to flip the Y channel. Actually, maybe we do. Yes, actually we do. We do need to flip the Y channel. Apologies for that. What we then do is we're going to tessellate it so we can get the displacement and get a nice displacement on it and see our height blend in action, basically. Gonna whack that up to 1000. You may need to tweak the scale center of this. You can see it's kind of working. We just enable global illumination, and it's one of the lighting setups. We can see it a bit more clearly now. Sorry if it lags a bit. It's running quite slow on my computer. You can see now the displacement affecting with the height map. Now yours may not look like this at all when you go in, when you actually bring it into Marmoset, and that's because you may need to do a lot of tweaking with the height levels back and forth, Substance Beta to Marmoset, and so on, until you get the right levels. Like I say, it's just a question of back and forth a lot of the time. Again, with scale center values, you just play around. with the depth of that displacement. You can see with this we're getting a nice, you can see these nice ridges on the rust poking through, and of course this clear, this clear edge on the lime scale. Obviously not perfect, you'd want to go in and, you know, physically paint in that to a bit more of a appealing state. Yeah, that's basically how you'd set it up. You'd make sure you turn off this cold back faces on the model, because the displacement, what it does, it pushes out with the UVs, but it doesn't join. I'll try to explain it. It doesn't join the edges of the UV islands up when the displacement pushes outwards. So you'll get gaps in your model. It's not going to look perfect in that regard, so there are going to be errors in the model, but from far away you generally won't notice it. So yeah, once you've done that, is just look at your model, see how it looks, see if you need to change your heights. Okay, after that, we're just going to basically set up, if I just turn off global illumination for a second. We're going to set up our camera first. I'll show you how I set up mine. Hang on, I'll just create a new camera first. You can see immediately how that changes the look. Excuse me. So what we're going to do first is just add a safe frame. So we're going to be able to frame our camera a bit more easily. I like to set the focal length to 50mm, because that's generally the focal length of the eye, the human eye, just a basic vision. If we go down to tone mapping here, this is important. We'll set this back to aces, and this is the same color profile we used for Painter. So we're going to see that's going to up the contrast, saturate it a bit more, just make it look much better. You can play around with these yourself, but I like to just add just a little bit of sharpness. You can go definitely too far with this, so err on the side of caution. Sort them out of bloom. Generally quite a bit of vignette. Do you like my vignette? And again, leave a bit of grain. It's always important. With your focus, you're going to want depth of field. Just get that to a nice, your focus distance to a decent area. Can be a bit fiddly. There we go. And set your near and far blur. Very self-explanatory. Don't really need to go into that too much detail. And the max pocket size is just, you know, the size of the blur basically. Right, that's basically how we set up the camera there. If we turn on global illumination, like so, you can see. Alright, after we've set up our camera, I'll just go back to this shot here. After we set up our camera, we'll basically create the lighting setup very quickly. This isn't a lighting tutorial, so I won't go into too much depth with that, but basically I go through my HDRIs first and just experiment with those. What I do is just take our key light, and if we're doing just a basic 3-point lighting, We take our key light, position it kind of like at a beauty angle here. I'm not an expert in lighting either, so take what I say with a pinch of salt, but I try to do what works. But yeah, just set it at a nice angle. Distance obviously affects the distance of the light, how far it travels. Attenuation curve is the kind of like how the brightness fluctuates in the distance. So if you don't have any attenuation or low value in this, it stays a very linear. But if you have a lot, it's kind of like an exponential curve. So it's bright here, and then it just gradually curves out. And bring the brightness up, because we want a nice bright light for our key light. And making all of the spot angle. Various different lights will create various different moods. Again, not a lighting tutorial. Yeah, these are very self-explanatory. This could just control the sharpness of the spotlight, and again the vignette. Right, so here's what I made earlier, as we've just seen. I open this up. You can see just a basic 3-point setup. We have a key light here, way up here. Oops. And the light to the side, and rim light here. Now, just a word of note, again, we're working with warm and cold. So the key light, I want to be warm, so that your eyes focus on where we want your eyes to focus, basically, where the key light's generally going to be focusing. And the cold areas, with the fill and the rim light, where we want to avert the viewer's gaze or draw it away from. So you see, if we went into our shot and we changed the fill light to something warmer, possibly, and you don't have that contrast between the warm key light and a cold fill light, then your eye is kind of drawn, it's pulled a bit more away from where you want it. You want the viewer to be looking. Whereas if we make it a bit more cold, you can see, you can definitely tell the difference. And it's just an important thing to keep note when you're doing anything, lighting, texturing, warm and cold notes, very important. Yeah, now we have a very beautiful render, or beautiful setup to be rendered. The other setups, there's a few more complex setups. Don't just be chained to the 3-point lighting setup. Even though it's very nice, it's a bit fake. And there are plenty of other different setups with different moods, highlighting different things about the mesh. So I wouldn't use this to particularly present the prop, but it's nice as kind of like a mood piece. And this is ultimately the lighting scheme that I used to present, as it just gives a very nice balanced, again, like I said before, kind of like you're in a museum, looking at some ancient relic of sorts. yeah, just to close off basically, with the whole lighting subs, and how I was lighting and presenting, the challenge was basically present it clearly. Don't try and get too fancy. I probably tried a bit too hard in that regard, and possibly I could have done a lot better job of, presenting them more clearly. So if you're lighting, always consider what the goal is, basically, what you're doing. So yeah, if you want a clear, presentable prop, the 3-point lighting is exceptional for that. Right, so that's basically all I have to say. Sorry if I'm not exactly a public motivational speaker or anything, but I've tried my best to try and show you how I've done these texturing. Hopefully you've learned something, and if anyone has any questions, you probably will, because I'm not exactly the best at explaining things. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. I'm a nice guy, trust me. I'm always willing to answer any questions. So yeah, feel free to shoot me a message on ArtStation or wherever is appropriate. Thank you for watching my tutorial. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Hope you learned something. Bye bye.